Okay, guys, I'm here today with Kendall Reusing. Huge honor for me. And guys, for those who doesn't know her, I think pretty much most of you know her at this point. And she's one of the best girls nowadays in Jiu-Jitsu. She's pretty much winning everything. And she's also the commentator at Flow Grappling, and she's doing an amazing job. And she just shot an entire instruction this week, all about how to build a roadmap and game plan for Jiu-Jitsu. And today she's going to explain here a little more.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really excited about this instructional because I think one of the most commonly asked questions that I get from my students, also in teaching seminars, also on social media, is how do I build my game plan? How do I build a roadmap for not only what do I do in competition, but also just how do I come into training to get better faster? How do I focus in on what I want to work on and go from the feet to submission? Like, how do we get there?
Yeah, no, and I fully agree with you. I see this question all the time. And I truly believe that Jiu-Jitsu is easier if you have a roadmap, if you have a game plan. Yes. I always separate Jiu-Jitsu in two buckets, like people who have roadmaps and people who doesn't have roadmaps. There are successful people on both, but I think there's way more people on this bucket than on this bucket.
Yes,
and I think Jiu-Jitsu is easier.
I agree. I think there's a lot of unknowns in Jiu-Jitsu. Anytime you step onto the mat to train, anytime you go into a competition, obviously. So anytime that we can create more singularity of focus and create like a zoned in, like almost I have blinders on, I know exactly where I want to go, the more simple the process is going to be for me. And also the less anxiety I'm going to feel about like so many things changing or going different ways.
Yeah, because you have like you know where you're going, like versus like I'm going to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. There's like two philosophies, right? And I kind of call it, it's like the strategy or the effort. And you're just I'll just do whatever. We'll see what happens. And it's like, okay, well, different people can win in those ways, but I find that, this works best for me and most of the people I coach.
But anyways, how do you build that?
Oh my gosh. So I think overall, the basic version of this, especially if you're not working one-on-one with a person helping you find it, which you don't need, by the way. You don't need a coach. I think a lot of people think they need a coach to tell them what the game plan is. But I believe that as instructors, it's our job to show people a lot of jiu-jitsu and expose them. But as students, my job as a student is to have the autonomy and the leadership of my own jiu-jitsu to decide where I want it to go. Yep. So I can do that job by myself and I can get help from instructors, but I need to decide first and foremost. I work backwards. This is the secret sauce right here. So first of all, you want to look at the place you feel most confident. Like if you watching this were like given the opportunity to start training with myself or Bernardo, and we said you could start in any position you want, what would you choose? That's really like the first part, because we don't want to work from our feet because we don't know where we want to go yet. We want to work in, if I'm getting a submission, where am I going to start? Maybe that's the back, maybe that's mount, side control, maybe that's closed guard, and obviously gi, no gi, maybe you have slightly different preferences. So for me, that position is the mount, okay? So everything that I do revolves around getting me to the mount. Okay. Because I feel most confident there.
So it's almost like mountains in the middle and you try to build around it.
Exactly. So we pick our place.
Including sweeps?
So yes, including sweeps. So this is really interesting because when I say my position is the mount, when I look backwards on the path of how to get there, there's a lot of different versions. So my game plan, my A game, right? My number one choice that I would have would most likely for me personally look like mount. We would back up in our mind and go, okay, there's guard pass that happens there because I like to play on top. So we go back to the guard pass now. We go back to the guard break because I was probably in closed guard, okay? Yep. So then we go back to the feet and it's like, well, how did I take the person down? Then we back up a little bit more and it's like, well, what was my stance? Like what happened when we shook hands? Then we can back up even more, of course, and go into like mindset and stuff, but just keeping it simple. Someone else's game plan may be that they don't really like takedowns that much, but they really like closed guard. So if that's the case, maybe your position is still the mount, but you backed up and you swept to the mount, right? And so then you were actually playing on bottom. So what does that guard look like? And then what did it look like when you pulled guard? So there's no one perfect answer, but if we start at the finish line and we know where we want to be, that we have the highest chance of feeling that we're going to submit the person, we feel confident, then we back up from there and build that out. Got
it. No, I love like how you kind of like choose a core and try to build around the core.
Yes, exactly.
And then it's funny because, for example, even in my career, I remember I tried all type of guards. I tried close guard, I tried spider guard, I tried butterfly guard. And then one day I did half guard and I almost felt like a click. I was like, oh, this is my thing, and then I started doing more and more and more and more. But, one question for you. So once you found your core, for example, let's imagine that your core is half guard. do you still doing other positions? Like, do you keep yourself open-minded to learn spider guard, butterfly, and this and that, or you just stick with how is?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. The longer answer is that these things take time. So it's really interesting what you said about that time that you tried half guard and things clicked for you. That was great, but you didn't start there, and no one could have said, hey, Bernardo, this is the one thing that you need to do. You needed to find it for yourself, and that takes time and practice. And it takes hours of just spending time in the position to have your body experiment. So yes, we can go outside of the game plan, but what I find works for me is when I stick to my game plan in training, my partners are going to give me opportunities to practice different things because they're going to defend. So they're going to push me and force me into different situations. Now, the intentional part is, okay, so say I just use the example of the game plan I gave, okay, some a Kendall Kana from Mount, we backed up into a knee cut pass maybe, and then I have a guard break I like to do, maybe that came off of a knee tap. That's a very Kendall kind of a match. So say I'm practicing that for a competition and I'm like, oh, but maybe I should practice double under passes. I really want to get good at that too. I would say that getting strong in that game plan where I feel like I can pretty much do that to most of my training partners that are my level, and maybe not someone really bigger and stronger and higher level, people that are my level, that I feel confident if I can do this over and over to them in training, that means I probably can do it in competition too. Once I have that feeling, then I start branching out and adding more on, because I view jiu-jitsu as like we have this big tree, right? So I make these tree branches really strong over time, and then each tree branch has like little twigs that come off that also get strong and contribute to that specific branch. So I want to build a strong foundation first. So I build my really strong foundation of this game plan, and then once I feel that's very strong, then I start adding things off to the side and make it more complex. Instead of being like, 60% proficient at all of these things, I would rather have master and then go off of there. And here's why. Because jiu-jitsu, we want to have that feeling of accomplishment. Jiu-jitsu is very hard, hard to come in and get tapped out and get smashed. It happens to all of us. Unfortunately, I hate to tell you guys this never stops happening, but that's also that's also the beautiful thing, because we want to come back and learn. So if I can encourage myself to have that feeling of a high self-esteem and confidence by knowing that I can execute this one thing, I'm more likely to be brave enough to try things that are harder, because I know I can go back to that if I need to. Got
it. No, that makes sense. Okay, then for example, let's imagine there are two scenarios here. One, you're training with someone way better than you. Two, you're training with someone way worse than you. Like maybe lighter, maybe lower belt, and this and that. Do you use game plan on the A game on both, or how do you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say it depends on the phase of like what I'm preparing for and what the goal are. I always go back to when people ask advice around training, it's like, well, it's individualized. What's your goal? Like, what are you trying to look for? So if someone is just looking to get better overall at jiu-jitsu, maybe competition is not your number one focus. If you're just wanting to get better, you want to have fun, stay in shape, have good self-defense, but also improve. You want to know you're getting better on a day-to-day basis. We all do. So if that's the case, then my advice is typically to work on your game plan on anybody that is at your level or below until it feels very, very sharp. Okay. Once that feels very, very sharp, then you're also using that on people that are bigger, stronger, better. Like if you're learning a new skill. Then as you start to feel like, say I go with someone who's less experienced than I am, I know if I use my game plan, I'm going to smash them and there's going to be a submission.
You start building new things.
Quickly. That's when I add the new things in. So things kind of, for me, cycle through my training partners. When it's something's brand new for my jiu-jitsu, this is who I'm trying it on over here, the less experienced. And then the people that are really, really tough, like my best training partners, I'm doing my A game. Like I'm not messing around over there because I'm going to get smashed. So then as this new skill gets stronger, I try it on different people, higher level, higher strength, more athletic. Then that starts to feel proficient with them. Then I'm clicking it into the higher level people that I'm training with. So just kind of cycles through. And I think that's a hot topic as well for women. Ask me a lot of the time, like, what happens when I have to go with Joe, who's 250 pounds? Like, am I trying new skills on him? And I'm like, no, you don't need to try your new skills on this guy you feel a little less comfortable with. First of all, you can always say no to a training partner. You don't have to train with this person if you're uncomfortable with them. But second of all, if you are comfortable training with them, work on your structural positions, work on your defense, work on keeping yourself safe, and like some of your survival skills. Like that's a good time to practice that, because you don't have to practice that when you go with someone who's your size. So it's just adjusting the expectations for who you're training with and your approach to the training.
No, love it. And then gi or no gi? Like you use the same game plan for gi and same plan for no gi, or?
Yeah, so again, going back to your goals, if someone is trying to get better at gi and no gi relatively at the same time and they're competing, then I believe that it's pretty important to try to make your jiu-jitsu as similar as possible. Okay. So if you're really in a big season of just, say you train gi and no gi both regularly, but you really want to focus on some specific gi skills, or you're getting ready for a gi competition, then it's like, okay, veer off, do whatever you need to do in the gi, get more, use your lapels, use your different positions, and then in no gi, try to stay as similar to it as you can. But if it's the other way around, say like you're getting ready for something no gi, there's competitions, or maybe you have training partners that do heel hooks and you're like, man, I need to learn this so that I can feel more comfortable in the positions, then obviously you're not repeating that in the gi, but you want to focus a little bit more on something different no gi. However, overall, the answer for me is that I try to have my game plans be almost as similar as possible so that I can seamlessly transition between the other one and the other. And I feel that it makes me rely less on the tricky parts of each option. So in no gi, if my game is similar to the gi, I'm relying less on being like slippery, flexible, fast, so I'm more solid. Then in the gi, I'm relying less on like, if I can just hold this little piece of the lapel and not get smashed, and I'm gonna be more structurally sound. So I think it's beneficial to focus on good grappling. Whether you have the gi on or not, it's going to make your life a lot easier when you're trying to get better at both.
No, and coincidence, like one of the best no-gi grapplers I know, like Marcelo Garcia.
Yes.
His game was pretty much identical, gi and no gi, so it's always an easy transition.
Yes. Another person I think of is Fionn. Fionn, gi and no gi, her game's almost the same, and you can see that when she fights, and it shows how dominant she is.
We filmed for her not so long ago, and she said that. She was like, to me, it's just easy because it's like And the last question, so you're building this game. So you decided that mount is your core and you're going to build around it, blah, blah, blah. But you don't control what's going to be taught in the class. So you go to the group class and the instructor is teaching something completely opposite, reverse de la riva. How do you deal with that?
So this kind of goes back to what I was mentioning, where it's an instructor's job, I believe, to expose their students to a lot of jiu-jitsu, give them a lot of options. It's our job to decide where we want to go with that and have that leadership of ourselves and be our own best coach. Because an instructor is maybe trying to teach for 300, 400 people sometimes and in one academy, and so it's not going to be specifically determined just for you. So that's when we take on that coaching hat for ourselves and we decide, okay, I'm going to go into a class. Obviously, I'm a respectful student. I'm going to train with what we're doing. I'm learning from the instructor. When we go into specific training, if we're starting from reverse de la riva, okay, I'm going to do that. But as soon as you have the opportunity to break out of what that is, whether that's in the regular rounds of sparring or maybe in the specific training, you can kind of move the position a little bit to focus in on where you want to be. Then that's the time to have the discipline and the focus to try to go there as often as possible. The next piece of that, I believe, and as a person who has schools and is an instructor of people, I love when people do this. When they say, hey, professor, like I'm working on XYZ during the sparring, would it be okay with you if I did some specific training from that position instead or stayed after class and things like that? And it's all just about communication, like talk to your training partners, find a buddy that you want to work on the same thing. Then maybe if there's a round of sparring that's 6 minutes, instead of doing that one round, you say, okay, hey, for 3 minutes, I'm going to start on top close guard. And if I pass, do a passing drill, then we're going to switch 3 minutes because you guys are working on the same thing. So there's a lot of ways to incorporate your goals into the training, but it takes intention. It takes actually intentionally making that decision to go ahead and like have a plan instead of just a free-for-all, right? Which takes more brain power. I know most people, they just want to go in the class and relax. But if you really want to get better faster, then just over-communicate and make a plan for your training and put that into the specific training. Stay after if you need to, and do it during the sparring. Pick people you can go to those positions with. Like if you know you want to work on spider guard, pick someone that like you're going to be able to pull guard and boom, put your spider guard in and then work from there. Instead of, the person that might pass your guard in 10 seconds and you don't get to work it.
No, that's awesome. And I love how you can rationalize how to build a game plan, because I think a lot of people, they do build a game plan, but they can't teach what they're doing. They just know how to do it. And I love the fact that you do it and you know how to teach. So this is awesome. So guys, Kendall is sharing an entire structure this week all about that, how to build a game plan and roadmap for your jiu-jitsu. So as you see, like, she really knows what she's doing, and it's coming out great, and it's going to be at IBJJFanatics.com very soon, so make sure to check it out. Maybe by the time you're watching, it's already there.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be one that you can do along with me. We're going to have the whiteboard up. You're going to get your paper out. We're going to build it together. I'm going to walk you through the entire process of everything I do for my camps, and not only that, but then how to plug in your game plan to your training in a 6-month-long plan so that you can see week to week how you're getting closer to making it sharper. So I'm really excited.
No, that's awesome. Yes. Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTube Faria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.